Chapter 3. The Leaking Book. Grace was sent to bed early by Horrible Hairbun. Try as she might, Grace was unable to eat her tea after all the delicious chocolate cake in the palace library. Even now, no one believed her about her discovery of the magical library, so when Horrible Hairbun frog-marched her to the bedroom and turned the key in the door, she settled into bed, somewhat sad and lonely. Being an orphan, Grace was rather too used to being sad and lonely. She wished she could remember her parents better. At least she was excited about reading the book that Edgar the librarian had lent her. She fell asleep with it, and it lay open on the bed beside her all night. The next morning, the shimmer of light breaking through badly drawn curtains awoke Eleanor. "At last," she said to herself, seeing the bright sunlight, "we can go and play outside and explore the gardens." She knew it was very early, but she wanted to find Grace and tell her the good news. She had missed Grace the night before, and felt guilty about not being kinder to her. The bad weather really had made them all grumpy. The floorboards in the old house squeaked. Along the corridor, towards Grace's room, Eleanor crept and nervously stretched her toes to remembered places on the floor in a well-practiced routine. A week in the old house ensured the journey was silent, so that she did not wake up any adults. She quietly turned the key in the lock outside Grace's room. Horrible Hairbun had left the key in the door. She jumped on Grace's bed and said, "Wake up, wake up! It's sunny at last. Let's go outside and play." Grace was pretty sleepy, but she soon woke up. Soon enough to hear Eleanor's next words properly. "Yuck, Grace, you've wet your bed." Grace was cross at that. She never wet her bed. But she had an answer. "Don't be silly, Eleanor. The book has leaked. I was reading it and left it open when I fell asleep." Eleanor was nearly a year and a half older than Grace, and reckoned herself to be considerably wiser, so she was able to say with a certain authority, "Books most certainly don't leak, Grace. You are the one being silly." Grace wasn't going to let her get away with that, so she held the book up above the blankets. "This one leaks. The librarian told me it might, but I don't know what to do about all the water." Eleanor looked in astonishment at the page of the book that Grace was holding up. She could read the words, "The owl and the pussycat went to sea in a beautiful pea-green boat." But what amazed her was the way the pictures moved, not like a television program or like a cartoon, but in a way that made you think you were really at sea with the owl and the pussycat. Then she realized what Grace meant. The pages were dripping water on the bed. The girls looked at each other and giggled. Then Eleanor looked seriously at Grace. In a very nice, civilized and grown-up way, she said, "I'm sorry I didn't believe you about the palace library, Grace. I should have known you wouldn't lie." Then the girls giggled again, and Eleanor jumped under the covers with Grace. They read the whole of Edward Lear's famous poem with all the pictures again, even though the bed-sheets were a bit damp. When they had finished, Eleanor said to Grace, "What on earth are we going to say to Horrible Hairbun about the sheets? She's so strict, and she'll never believe us about the book leaking. I don't want you to be in any more trouble." They were worried and sat up to think about it, closing the pale yellow cover of the book as they did so. With the cover shut, the book began to draw all the water out of the sheets. It was like someone sucking up a drink with a straw and using blotting paper all at the same time. Moments later, the sheets were completely dry. The girls looked at each other in awe and giggled again. Grace thought for a moment. "Shall we go and give the book back to the librarian and tell him what fun it was? Maybe he'll lend us another one if we show him we can look after it." Then Eleanor added, "Shall we ask Harry to come too?"